You probably know that I'm a big fan of keyboards for developers, and I've tried out many mechanical keyboards in the past. And last year I purchased a new one that I've been using since then, which I actually want to talk about, which is the Ultimate Hacking Keyboard. So the reason why I got one of that now is that actually, well, I was traveling a lot in the past and I did not want to use a keyboard with a different layout because I always had to type on my laptop as well, and then going back and forth and switching layouts is actually challenging. But now, since I've only been working from home, so this has been a good opportunity to try out something new. And thanks to my fellow German, Kevin, he recommended this keyboard particular, or actually I also want to talk about such keyboards with an alternative layout in general. This is what I tried out since then. So as you can see, it has a split layout, but I actually don't care too much about the split layout, or I was never really troubled with the normal layout, because for me it's more important that you actually have a desk with a nice angle of your typing experience, so that you have a proper angle of your hands and wrists, because this might be quite challenging. And then the fact whether you have a straight up keyboard or a split one, well, it's a little bit nicer, but for me that was not necessarily a big criteria. But the actual killer feature for me is that this keyboard has extra modifier keys. So you can press these extra keys such as the cursor arrows or delete, insert, and so on without moving your hands away. And I've been talking about this many times, about what I call also context switches, like the physical context switches of moving your hands away from the home row, which actually is a small disruption in your work. So similarly, like why we are productive typing as developers and not moving the mouse or going back and forth, well, it is because we can stay in one position on the home row, namely, and just keep typing. That's also why I've been talking about the Vim typing experience a lot, and this is actually kind of connected to this. So if you check out the layout, you see that actually the space bar is split and it's also smaller, and instead we have more space for more modifier keys. And this is one of the killer features of such a keyboard. So again, this is what I've been using, but in general, these type of keyboards, that you can actually press this modifier key and have access to many more keys that you then can press. And also a big killer feature of this one in particular is that it comes with a keyboard agent where you can actually change the keys on your physical device, on your hardware, and then you can unplug it and take it somewhere else, and you can change it to whatever you want it to be. So this is kind of cool, and I wanted to go through you with my particular setup, with my key settings. And I've been talking about this also with regards to Vim, that usually on an operating system level, I remapped caps lock to escape, which is very helpful. Just in general, also I don't really need caps lock. And I think I still have it somewhere on the extra layer, but again, I really never use it, so that's fine. But escape here is really, really helpful. And now this is actually done on the keyboard, that's even better. Also, you see that here there are these extra modifier keys. So Control Alt, that's known. Super, I'm on Linux, that's actually the Windows key otherwise. And we have this modifier and mouse layer and also function. So the arrangement here already changed for me. So I reprogrammed, well, depending on what is easiest for me. So actually you can change, whatever you want on this key and on any key. And in this case, this of course goes, well, Control, Alt, and so on, so that's known. And the modifier key then activates a different layer, which now is really cool, that now we have access to all of these extra keys, like, you see it here, home, delete, and so on, and the cursor arrows, without moving our hands. So that's the killer feature of that I actually just press an extra modifier key, and once I get used to these movements, then I have access to the cursors. I already changed this from the default, which here you can see that is now similar to the Vim movement, because I use Vim a lot and I'm really used to, having this left, right, up, down on these keys. And then by pressing modifier, I now have the cursor arrows, which is really, really helpful, because for me, it was the case that I've been using some other programs for non-developers like Microsoft Excel, and I was struggling with just going to the cursor arrows and back and forth. And now this is just so much faster by just touching this key, and then I have it all available on fingertips. So that's pretty interesting. Then also what you see here on the left, like this page up and page down together with Control and Shift, this is actually to control the browser. So I've been using this, then you can go back and forth by just pressing the same key, and then it emulates these keystrokes that the browser accepts. Also, you could have some more macros and things that you would like to execute, like literally you can type anything that the keyboard could type or could send to your device, your device, which is pretty cool. So that's basically this killer feature here of this modifier key. So again, this has been the best enabler or the biggest productivity impact for me in the last time or in the last months when I tried this out. And that's been quite helpful. This one is the function key, which actually just triggers some function like your laptop would. And I haven't been using this too much, to be honest, also because I use my operating system under Linux with an i3 window manager, which is already very customizable, where I have the super key plus some combination to start up some programs and things like that. And now it's just one less keystroke, which is fine. So I also remapped function like 1, 2, 3 to start a browser and some programs that I often use. I have this language feature, which changes the key mapping to, well, Latin-based, like the normal one, and Cyrillic for Russian. And I also have some other programs like some helpers where I can start programs, or I have some emoji picker, which is just easy to access here. But you can play around with that a little bit. It's basically a function key that is easy to access. So again, nice story. You don't have to look on your device where this extra function key is, because it's just another layer. And then the last of these extra function keys, which for me is a little bit of, it's a nice to have, it's a nice toy if you want, for the mouse layer. So actually you can move your mouse with the keyboard. So it sounds funny, and it is. And it's, you have to get used to this a little bit. There is some speed acceleration that it can choose. So it's almost like a computer game. But like in computer games, keys are very good for other type of movements and not necessarily very precise. Pointing and clicking, so for which I usually still use the mouse. So sometimes it can be helpful when you don't want to switch, when you just have to make a tiny or small movement, or when you want to use the scroll function, so that can be quite helpful as well. But usually I still just use the mouse or things like that. So it's a nice to have, I would say. Rather, what's really helpful is, again, you can change all of these keys and also the position of these modifier keys. So this is what I've been doing. So I think originally these keys are swapped or somewhere in a different position. And what I want to look at is, what is the muscle memory, what my hands are used to do. Why? Because we always get used to the keyboards that we type on. And if you're on a non-standard keyboard or on your laptop, then this position where the Alt is, right, if it's here or there, and Control and Shift and all these things, it might vary a little bit. And that's also subjective, what you personally are used to and what your muscle memory is used to. So it might make sense to just look at it and say, hey, wait a second, which key am I actually pressing here? And which is more convenient to just for my hands and for my thumbs and all that. So this is why I changed this position also for the Alt key, Alt graphics, which I use for the US International Keyboard layout, which I use to type umlauts. So that's quite helpful that I just actually moved it to this position, because that's what my thumb was used to press. And again, just the fact that it can change everything here on this agent that runs in your computer and reprograms literally your keyboard is really, really cool. So for me, that's definitely a killer feature and worth looking into to further improve your typing productivity. So what I purchased for this one was actually the version here without keycap printing, of course. Why? Because it looks cooler. And also it doesn't make sense to have the original keyboard printing once you actually change something like these modifier keys. So then it really doesn't help you to look on the keys. So just, forget it and get it into muscle memory and train it a little bit. That's much more helpful. And I actually got the version 1, so now they have version 2 with, I think, replaceable switches and some color lighting, which I also don't need, so I'm very happy with my version. I have slightly different switches. I have the Kail brown switches, which I think for this version are not offered anymore, but for the new version now, it comes with the same price, so whatever. This wasn't available when I bought it. And with this layout plus the palm rest, which is actually very convenient, and also feels really nice. So the quality of the product feels really good. So it's similar to that. And I'm a big fan of this. I don't have any of these extra mouse modules yet. So if you don't have this, then you can actually plug it together, and then it's similar to one big or one normal layout keyboard. The reason why I didn't have these is that they weren't available when I bought it. And I was thinking about it, however, to get these, just because then again, this hand movement to the mouse is just slower, so it's nearer, and then it's less of a physical context switch. So this is also the reason why some people prefer using a laptop where all of these devices are closer together, and where it's a tiny movement to just use your trackpad, or sometimes even can use it with your thumb or whatever. And this does make a difference. So all of these tiny hand movements and optimizations actually help you in the long run. And this is why I also just encourage to try out different devices. So that's basically it. Other than that, again, I'm very happy just with this particular keyboard. So this is what I've been using since then, also because I'm only working from home, so I got used to it very quickly. And now I also don't want to miss these modifier keys anymore. I actually notice it when I now am typing on my laptop keyboard, that I really miss this modifier key, and I don't need that big of a space bar. So that's a little bit, a waste of space, can be used differently. And I really like the fact that it can reprogram everything on the keyboard, and that makes it very easy. Also, if you're not using, a Linux setup or some setup where I can actually reprogram your operating system easily with regards to keyboard. So that's really cool that this is available. And then for this particular keyboard, so I'm of course not sponsored, so this is just my honest opinion. And also, this is the one I tried out. I don't think it might matter that much which particular keyboard of this type you try out. So there are different ones that come with these extra modifier keys and are, as far as I know, also reprogrammable. But the thing I liked about this particularly was that you can change everything here, and everything is also open source, which I think is just kind of cool, and this sounds very fair. The only thing I didn't like that much was that it actually took quite a while to ship, but that was also probably because I purchased it back then in, I think it was April, and they were still suffering with and missing materials, they said, because of COVID. So, this might be excusable. I don't know how the shipping times are right now, but that was my opinion on this particular keyboard, and that's definitely what I'm using now and what I'm quite happy with. So I hope this was helpful and entertaining, and thanks a lot for watching. Bye.